Well, welcome to Superside and the 2005 FIM Sidecar World Championship. Well, round one of the series kicks off in the UK, and it's at Brands Hatch in Kent, the lovely Garden of England. Well, this is the 57th annual running of the Sidecar World Championship, and when the series first began in '49, this is the type of machine the guys were riding. As we progressed through the late 60s and early 70s, sidecars became a lot lower, smaller wheels and more purposeful. Then throughout the late 70s, they got even more sleek and wider and faster. Then in the mid-80s, car technology came into play with sidecars, and now, to borrow a phrase, they're sleeker and wider and faster and lighter. Well, for the opening round of the 2005 series, we had a celebrity passenger at the Brands Hatch press day. The lovely Emma Parker Bowles hitched a ride with one of the top British riders, Tim Reeves. Emma, first experience of a Formula One sidecar. What's your verdict?
Probably the last, I think. No, it was really good. It was pretty scary.
Was it what you expected?
It was. I didn't think it was going to be that frightening.
I asked Tim about his build-up to this year. It's been a pretty hectic build-up to this event for you. You've been doing a lot of PR with the newspapers and with the launch of the new team and everything. How's that affecting your plans for the racing?
No, it's not been too bad really. It's good. It's just good for us, and it's good for the team, and it's good for the sport again, really. So I don't mind doing it at all, really. It's good to have sidecar racing in the national newspaper. So yeah, not a problem at all, really.
New season, new start, new format for Superside. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's good. It'll be good for the spectators. The new format with the match races, I think it'll be good. Good fun for the teams as well, really. I'm quite looking forward to the 5-lap heavy proper air racing races, I think, especially with Steiny and Webber and stuff. So yeah, I think it'll be good for the spectators and good for the sport.
Well, the 10 times world champion Steve Webster took the title in Schleitz last year. Steve Webster, Paul Woodhead, the 2003-2004 world champions, coming into 2005. Obviously a real shake-up with the series. Is that going to put any pressure on you?
I think whenever there's big changes in the way that the race format goes, obviously it throws all sorts of different things into the equation, and we're like everybody else now. We're learning about the new weight penalties, and to do with the short races, people are going to get caught out. I think it evens it up for a lot of people, makes it a little bit more fairer, let's say. It gives the teams with a little bit less finance also a chance to do well in certain races when some of the top teams are caught out by not being at the race in time or not finishing good in a heat. So it makes for more interesting racing. I'm all for that, yeah.
And Paul, from the passengers' point of view, is it going to make it a lot more difficult for you this year?
I don't think so. I mean, we had one round last year in Germany at Schleitz where we had 3 races. And I think as long as everybody's sensible and sort of paces themselves over the 3 race distance, I don't think it'll be a problem now.
In 2002 and 2003, Jörg Steinhausen, son of the former double world champion Rolf, was one of the front riders. Jörg Steinhausen returning to the World Championship after concentrating on the German series last year. Jörg, obviously big changes in Superside this year, but you've had a year out. Are you playing a bit catch-up to Steve Webster and Tim Reeves?
Yeah, it will take a while. Unfortunately, first race is on their home ground here at Brands Hatch in the circuit, and yeah, it's a bit difficult for us to catch up here. We expected this, and we tried to score some points and not to get lost in the championship at the first meeting.
So is this your first time on the short circuit here at Brands Hatch?
Yeah, and it started to get dizzy already, yeah.
Well, there is the short 1.2 mile circuit here at Brands Hatch. The lap record at 48.5 seconds held by Tim and Tristan Reeves. And we've heard of these big changes in Superside, and Well, coming up is the first of these changes, the match race series. This is where the competitors are split into groups from the qualifying sessions and then race against 5 or 6 machines in heats, semi-finals and a final. So the first match race got underway with number 81 Andy Peach and Nick Webb on the M&W Team Ready Mix racing machine. This was held on the Saturday evening, and as you can see, they shot off into a commanding lead in very tricky conditions with number 10 Jean and Gregory Clues there, the French team bringing up the rear. They were the slowest of the qualifiers after the qualifying session, and this format will take a while to get used to for sure, but this was the first race in the new series, and the winner of this race would qualify himself for a place in the semi-finals. So just to recap, we've got 4 match race heats. The winners automatically go forward to a semi-final, and then the remaining qualifiers for those semi-finals will be sorted out by the fastest race times from the other finishers. So Andy Peach and Nick Webb in the most of these difficult damp conditions, half wet, half dry, and I think on wet tyres there. Andy, of course, the former World Championship passenger who switched to driving a couple of years ago and making a good fist of things here at Brands Hatch. So it was Peach and Webb that won the opening match race heat in the 2005 World Championships. Heat 2 pitched the next fastest qualifiers, number 37 there, Gary and Dan Knight on their Redline Superbikes LCR Suzuki, and also in there number 55, Mike Roscher and Adolf Harney from Germany. The original qualifying conditions very tricky, catching some of the fancied runners out and finding themselves further down the order than perhaps they would have liked. But these match races giving people a chance to progress back up to the semi-finals and hopefully make it into the final to collect those first 25 points of the season. Well, this 5-lap dash format, pitching the machines that were close on time in qualifying, really providing some spectacular quick-fire racing for the spectators that had braved the Saturday evening conditions. Number 37 there, Gary Knight dropping down the order. Number 5, Pekka Pivarinta and Peter Wall, the Finnish pair. But it was Roscher and Haney that eventually worked their way to the front of this 5-man grid, sliding their way through Clearway's corner there and coming in to book their place in the first of the semi-finals alongside Andy Peach and Nick Webb. Pat on the back from Adolf Haney there. Well, Heat 3, and we're getting up towards the top end of the qualifiers. Number 155, Bill Philp and Rick Long. And number 2 there, Martin and Tony Van Gils, the runners-up in last year's world title, the Dutch pair. Well, obviously the conditions getting slightly drier, but these riders also slightly quicker. So apart from the heat winners, the next fastest riders from all of the heats will go forward to the semi-finals. So you would expect that to be made up from heats 3 and heats 4 that contain the top 12 qualifiers. But a great scrap going on at the front between Bill Philp, number 84 Andy Laidlow, there's number 99 Dan Morrissey and Robert Biggs. But Bill Philp and Rick Long on that 155 Media LCR Yamaha head in the pack at the moment. And Martin and Tony Van Gils, their first time on this Brands Hatch short circuit. They've raced on the GP circuit before, but not really happy with the short track. So it was Bill Philp who became the 3rd qualifier for the semi-finals, and Heat 4 would give us our final heat winner. And this is the fast boys, the top 5 in qualifying. Number 77, straight into an early lead, Tim and Tristan Reeves, and they headed number 1, reigning champions Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead on that Team Castrol Suzuki machine. Also in there, number 22, Jorg Steinhausen and British passenger Trevor Hopkinson. Number 75, Brian Pedder and Rod Stedman, teammates to Tim and Tristan Reeves in that new Dave Roberts racing setup. And at the back there at the moment, number 8, Richard Gatt and Paul Randall, the former British champion, but it was really a story of Tim and Tristram Reeves and Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead at the front. They were the fastest two guys, separated by less than half a second from qualifying. But it was Reeves that had the upper hand in this 5-lap sprint. Bearing in mind, Webster really doesn't have to win this race to qualify for the next phase of the match races, but he has to be one of the quickest of the rest. So these match races really putting a bit of pressure on the guys to think of some tactics. And, well, a bit of a spin there for number 75, and, oh, a big impact from Richard Gatt and Paul Randall. Well, Pedder got it all wrong and spun, and unfortunately number 8, Gatt and Randall, had nowhere to go, just got into the kitty litter on the exit of clearways there, and well, quite a heavy impact into those tyre barriers, but well, they're up and okay, but that's put paid to any of their chances to make the final. They're out of it now. But at the end of the 5 laps, it was number 77, Tim and Tristan Reeves, that booked their place into that second semi-final. Well, join us after the break for the semi-finals and the final of the match races. Well, welcome back here to Brands Hatch and the first of the semi-finals of the match races. Well, the winners of match race heats 1 and 2 were Andy Peach and Mike Rocher. They qualified automatically for this semi-final, and they were joined by Pivarinta, Knight and Morrissey and Mannanen, being the next fastest 4 qualifiers from those 2 heats. Well, at the start, it was number 55, Mike Rocher and Adolf Harney, who headed the pack around Druids for the first time. Dan Morrissey and Rob Biggs on that Team Advan Excalibur LCR Suzuki. Close behind, Pekka Pivarinta on the white number 5 machine there, the Finnish champion. And bringing up the rear at the moment, Andy Peach and Nick Webb. They were 17th fastest qualifiers before the heats, and they made it through to this match race by winning their heat, but looking as though they're struggling a little bit in this one. Number 88, Tero Mannanen and Pekka Koismanen, they're the Finnish pair alongside Pivarinta and Wall. Mannanen, a former European champion. And there again you see number 81 on that Team L&W Ready Mix machine. Pivarinta and Wall struggling as well in this one. Of course, the winner of this semi-final, which at the moment looks like it could be number 99, Dan Morrissey and Rob Biggs, as they just scythe their way past Mike Rocher and Adolf Harney. The winner of this semi-final is automatically through to the final, which contains the fastest 6 machines from the semi-finals. It's quite an easy formula, but it doesn't sound it to explain it. Well, Morrissey romping away at the front now that he's made the break. And Mike Rocher and Adolf Harney coming under pressure from the TUS Motor Suzuki of Tero Mannanen. And Gary and Dan Knight, a little bit cautious on that opening lap, I think. They got away well, but slipping down the order. But Morrissey on that immaculate Advan Suzuki. Dan, of course, missed most of the second part of last year. And this is his first race back in 2005, and really coming back with a strong attitude. And Rob Biggs, of course, member of the famous Biggs Racing clan, but this year, at the moment, the only family member racing in the World Championships. Now, a few years ago, we had, well, what seemed like half a dozen of them, but Jamie Biggs, his eldest brother, the 2002 World Champion with Steve Abbott, he's in Australia this year. And we must say welcome to our Australian viewers for this 2005 World Championship. Well, there it was, Dan Morrissey taking the win in the first of the semi-finals. Mike Rocher and Adolf Harney just hanging on to that second place. Second of the semi-finals, pitching number 77, number 1 and number 22, the fastest 3 from qualifying together again. And once again, just to recap the rules, the winner of this semi-final goes through to the final. And then the remaining 4 places, because we've already got Dan Morrissey in the final, the remaining 4 places will be the 4 fastest finishers from both of the semi-finals. Well, it was Steve Webster that got into an early lead, but Tim and Tristan Reeves weren't going to let the current world champion have it all his own way. Of course, Tim and Tristan pushed Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead to the European Series last year and had a couple of wins in that series, but now back on the full World Championship trail, and they'll want to prove that they can beat Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead in the World Championship. Well, doing a good job of it so far, streaking away at the front with Jörg Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkinson now up to 3rd position. Once again, the winner is certain to go through to the final, and then the remaining places are going to be made up from some of these guys if they're the next 4 fastest finishers. So we've got Steinhausen and Hopkinson 3rd, Bill Philp and Rick Long on the 155 machine 4th. Number 84 there is Andy Laidlow and Patrick Farrance. Andy Laidlow making his first appearance here at Brands Hatch, been racing for quite a few years on the British scene. Formula 2 rider, Scottish champion, broke to the Formula 1 machines last year and really doing a good job in his first ever World Championship event so far. But still, Tim and Tristan Reeves holding off the attentions of Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead at the moment. And they're breaking away from Steinhausen and Hopkinson, but this is a quick semi-final, so I'd expect to see most of these guys getting through to that final 6 machines and the match race shootout final for the first 25 maximum points in the 2005 FIM World Sidecar Championship. Well, coming into clearways for the final time, Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead trying everything they know, but they also know they don't have to win the race, and Webster up nearly on the grass on the inside of clearways, so he didn't have to win the race, but he was definitely trying hard to do it. Well, it looks like my co-commentator Kenny Kay flying in, ready for this match race final.
Well, indeed, yes. Good afternoon. Hello, Ian. Thanks for letting me land here at Brands Hatch. Well, welcome everybody to this match race final for this first round of the 2005 FIM Sidecar World Championship. Steve Webster there. Well, that's actually Paul Woodhead, the passenger of Steve Webster, having a little bit of a tete-a-tete with either Tim or Tristan Reeves. Couldn't see which it is. That's the German pairing there of Jörg Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkins. That's Jörg we're looking at. And the 84 outfit of Andy Laidlow and Patrick Farrance. And that's Bill Philp, smiling his little head off. That's the current British F1 champion. Well, as you can see, weather conditions here a little bit unpredictable. We're going to hope the rain stays off. So match race final, it's 5 laps, all to go for. Ian, and what do they get as a prize?
Well, 25 points is the prize that they get, the first 25 points of the 2005 season, and we're on board with Bill Philp and Rick Long into Paddock Bend for the first time. Looks like they've got away in 4th position. Looks like Jörg Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkinson ahead of them. Can't see who it is in the lead at the moment. Oh, but number 84, Andy Laidlow and Patrick Farrance on the LFR Racing Suzuki, just slipping up the inside of Bill Philp there.
It's tight on the bottom, and it looks to me as Steve Webster has gone into the lead. Tim Reeves there behind him, then Steinhausen there in 3rd. So as we get this first lap underway, just 5 laps. All very, very lucky there for Reevesy. He was really hanging on that one, Ian.
Yeah, and did you see the big black lines from the sidecar tyre of Jörg Steinhausen's machine round there, really leaning on that sidecar tyre?
Well, as the sun disappears behind a nice big black cloud above her, fingers crossed we won't get any rain. As you can see, it's very cloudy in parts, very sunny, and the sun just going in again on this side of the circuit. So I think tyre choice is really critical for this one.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cold, but, well, slicks on this one, but what compound? I mean, soft compound, only 5 laps. This is a mere trip down to the shops for these guys into comparison to what they're normally used to for the World Championship races. But this new format brought in for 2005 just to liven things up a little bit and create a bit more interest for the spectators in these short 5-lap dashes. So end of lap 2, Webster now streaking away at the front.
Steinhausen's still there in third. It's the interesting thing about this is we only have this format for 4 of the 8 rounds, so it's going to be a little bit of fun, this one, I think, Ian.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, here at Brands Hatch, we've got this 5-lap match race final. We've got the sprint race coming up, and of course the longer gold race. So 3 races here at Brands Hatch, but the next round in Hungaro Ring, just one single long race. So tactics come into play at every single event. The guys have really got to think about how they're going to approach the weekend.
Well, Webster clearly at the moment stamping his authority on this one. Jörg Steinhausen there with Trevor Hopkins in the chair, back in third place and trying to close the gap on Tim and Tristan Reeves, who are currently in second, but you can see there the distance. It's quite considerable as they come onto the dark side of the stadium at this end of Brands Hatch. Of course, the sun is obscured behind the big stadium, so it's pretty cold actually there. There is Reevesy trying everything he can on the Roberts Plant outfit, number 77, to get on terms with, as you said before, Ian, the 10 times world champion Steve Webster with Paul Woodhead in the chair.
Yeah, Tim and Tristan obviously won that match race heat and the semi-final. Webster close behind them, but as soon as it comes to having 25 points on the table, Webster's not going to let Reevesy take that one easily, is he?
Big question that needs to be asked, like a big smoke out the back of Reeves' outfit, is Reevesy holding, sort of hanging on really for the big races and letting Webster get away with this, or is he just being beaten by the world champion?
Well, they're on their final lap. I think he's getting beaten. I mean, to be honest, Tim and Tristan Reeves' best chance for victory probably came in the shorter races. Webster, of course, the master of Grand Prix racing for a long, long time now. So if Tim was going to be able to beat Webster, I would have thought it would have been over the 5-lap dash.
We just caught a glimpse of 99 Dan Morrissey with Rob Biggs in the chair, but we're back at the front once again for this battle as they head towards the checkered flag. It looks like Webster will take maximum points. Reevesy once again smokes up the back tyre, but here they come. It is indeed Steve Webster, the winner of this match race.
Yeah, well, this 5-lap match race final really providing some excitement for the crowd. And now the results confirmed. Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead take maximum 25 points from Tim and Tristan Reeves. Steinhausen and Hopkinson take third. Laidlaw and Farrance a fine 4th position. Dan Morrissey and Rob Biggs just got 5th position on the line from Bill Philp and Rick Long. And the 7th to 10th finishers in their times from the semi-finals.
Well, former 1953 world champion passenger there, Stan Dibben, the passenger of Eric Oliver. Bev Stafford there, put the garlands round Paul Woodhead's neck, and of course Steve Webster, the winner of that match race. Jörg Steinhausen to the right, and of course that was Tim Reeves to the left. Race 2 coming up right after this short break.
$500, 1000, 5000, 10 000 euros. Gagnez le jackpot en...
And of course that was... Welcome back then to Brands Hatch. Second race on the line, and Ian's down there talking to Steve Webster.
First race win under your belt, but now we're getting into the long races. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, now it comes a different race format and the way things are. Before it was a bit of a sprint race, now we're getting back to the longer races. It's things like tyre choices come into it and race tactics. So yeah, let's see what happens, eh?
Well, what about Tim Reeves then?
Tim, the old boy beat you in the first sprint race there. Now your chance to get revenge.
Yeah, we'll have to try and turn the tables around this one, eh? He's always says he's a polite man, but he wasn't very polite in that race, so we'll have to see how we get on here, eh?
So here we go. Well, that's Steve Norbury there on the line as they come under starters' orders. Ian's about to join me back in the commentary position. Sprint race gets underway, and we're going to go on board there with Dan Morrissey, number 99.
Yeah, Dan Morrissey and Rob Biggs 5th in that match race final. Excellent result for them, their best ever result in the World Championship so far. Qualified in 10th position, didn't get a great start there off the line, did they? They got a bit swamped going into Paddock Bend. Looks like Brian Gray and Steve Pointer ahead of them, and Tero Mannanen and Pekka Koismanen there just in front. So, well, Morrissey and Biggs just really dropping down on that opening quarter of a lap.
No surprise to who the front runners are then. It is Tim Reeves on the 77 Roberts outfit from Steve Webster, and Webster having a look up the inside, but that I believe is Richard Gatt and Paul Randall there on the number 8 outfit that's in 3rd spot.
You remember Gatt and Randall did qualify in 4th position, but they didn't make the match race final after having that altercation with the tyre barrier at Clearways in their match race heat. So again, that match race format really shaking things up for the first series of races, but now we're into race 2, the sprint race, and they've got a chance to make amends.
Well, here at Brands Hatch, of course, we're on the Indy circuit, which is the shorter of the 2 main circuits here. The Grand Prix circuit, which is the big long one we're not using here today, but we're on board now looking back off of the machine of Tim and Tristan Reeves at the 10 times world champion. There he is, number 1 on the nose cone, of course, Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead in the chair as they come down to complete another lap at speeds, what is it, about 140 miles per hour down there, Ian?
Yeah, from the short circuit, Clearways is a slow corner, but they're still reaching over 140 miles an hour on the entry into Paddock Hill Bend. Paddock's probably taken at about 90 miles an hour, probably still doing 55, 60 miles an hour through Druids here.
Well, that's 3rd place. Richard Gatt, and a good ride for him. Is that, I think, Jörg Steinhausen behind him in 4th. Looks like Steiny.
It is indeed, and Bill Philp and Rick Long there in 5th. Well, talking to some of the foreign competitors before the racing began, and they were a bit worried about the local knowledge that the British guys had of this short Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Bill Philp getting a big slide on coming through Clearways there, chasing Jörg Steinhausen. But yeah, circuit knowledge perhaps a factor for the British guys, but then in 5th position at the moment we've got Andy Laidlaw and Patrick Farrance, and they've never been here before.
Well, just go to show, but look at Webster. He's having a look up the inside, and I think Reeves, he slammed the door squarely in his nose then. Has another look up the inside, and this time he's made it stick, or has he?
Well, this is getting really physical now, isn't it? There's no quarter arse or given between these two. They're side by side coming into Surtees.
That's got to go. Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to go Reeves' way. He's on the inside line, so Webster had to back off there and let Reevesy back through, but he'll have another go as they come back around and onto the start and finish straight. It's really head down, and it's a drag race to the first corner.
Yeah, I think there'll be some green and red paint on that Team Roberts outfit as well. That was very close racing between the two of these.
Tim Reeves, Webster getting it very sideways there.
He's really trying hard, isn't he? He does not want Tim Reeves to win this race, and who can blame Steve Webster?
But he doesn't want Tim to win the World Championship. He wants to make it 11. But Tim, of course, desperately wants to win his first World Championship, and if anybody on the circuit or in sidecar racing today can do it, it's those two, Tim and Tristan Reeves.
Yeah, I think Jörg Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkinson, a bit disappointing so far this weekend at Brands Hatch, but they've got a few problems, I think, but they'll be catching up at the next round for sure.
Well, we're back on board again with Dan Morris as he just catches the curb there and bounces our onboard camera around, causing it to stutter slightly. These cameras aren't too favourite to being bounced over the curbs.
Look at that right close up behind Mike Rocher and Adolf Hanny there, inches away at 140 miles an hour. Fantastic shots from this onboard camera, and this is really what it's like to be riding one of these machines. And has Morrissey made it through? He has. The black outfit has disappeared from in front of us.
Tim Reeves gesticulating to Steve Webster, say, well, come on then, if you want to come past me, come past me. Believe you me, Tim, I'm sure Steve Webster will oblige in the fullness of time. But we're back on board again with Dan Morrissey as the battle continues further on down the field for those all important positions and, of course, points as we look to go to round 2 at the Hungaroring in Hungary.
Yeah, Dan Morrissey in 10th position at the moment, and that's Martin and Tony Van Gils on the Maton Racing E-Tech machine in front of them. And, of course, Van Gils runner-up in last year's World Series. And Dan Morrissey really having a good ride here at Brands Hatch, and I think he's gone through. He has indeed. So Dan Morrissey up to 9th place.
I would have actually expected Tony Van Gils to be going just a little better than what he is at the moment. A lot of slipping and sliding from that outfit in front. I'm not quite sure who that is. Maybe, Ian, you can recognise the back of that one?
Yeah, that looks like Steve Norbury and Scott Parnell. So they're in 8th position. They're having their first World Championship weekend as well. So a good showing from those two. Steve and Scott were on the podium at last year's Isle of Man TT on the F2 machine. So they've switched to the Formula One bike last year, did a few rounds of the European Series, but their first World Championship season, and going well so far. But Dan Morrissey, while the speed of that Excalibur machine just out dragging the Lockside Racing Suzuki into Paddock Bend, and Morrissey now up to 8th position.
I do believe that Steve Norbury will also... Oh, he's gone back through again. Norbury has under brakes. Well, this is a really great battle between these two. I was just about to say Steve Norbury, I believe, is also competing in the Isle of Man. Whoa, right off the nose cone there.
Well, that was close, and you could see how Morrissey had to back out of that one and lost a little bit of time. But up the front now.
Well, they're at it again, aren't they, these two?
Well, Webster was alongside, but Reeves wasn't giving him any room into Paddock Bend there, was he?
No. This could all end up in tears for these two if they're not careful. Reeves, he just doesn't want to give this one away. And Webbo determined to get through. Reevesy goes for another look up the inside again. Very tight.
Squirming really hard coming out of that left-hand corner. Not a lot of weight on the rear tyre, so sliding through those left-handers under the power. 200 brake horsepower. 3rd position, Richard Gatt. 4th position, York Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkinson. And Andy Laidlow back with this battle for 8th position. Morrissey in 9th, Steve Norbury, Scott Parnell there in 8th position. And we're going to get a change.
He has got some power on that outfit. He seems to pull away from Steve Norbury up the short straights here, so... No,
it didn't quite make it there. Norbury still had the inside line, 4 clearways. Back out onto this fast, difficult clearways corner. More of a curve than a corner, but there's so many ripples and bumps in there that it's hard to keep the outfit online. And now it looks like Dan Morrissey has indeed moved up into that 8th place.
We spoke too soon.
Wow, this is a tremendous scrap, isn't it?
Steve Norbury just does not want to give that position up at all.
No, got a big slide on coming out of Druids there. That's going to cost him some time. Can Morrissey not on the brakes this time? Maybe he's lining it up through here. Gave himself enough room, and he's got a run on Norbury now. I think we're going to see a change of position. No.
Frequently seeing a lot of smoke off the back tyre of Steve Norbury's outfit, so he's spinning that one up continually. But we're back at the front again. It's Steve Webster. A small gap has now developed between Webster and Reeves in 2nd place. So I wonder, has Webster broken the youngster's spirit?
Well, yeah, this looks like the biggest gap we've seen between the outfits all weekend so far. And Tim, if you're within half a second, you can stay there. As soon as that gap increases, it becomes difficult to hang on. Steinhausen there still in 4th place. Slide from Richard Gatt as he came out of the left-hander, and that's given Steinhausen a run going into Surtees. Well, Steinhausen takes 3rd position there from Richard Gatt and Paul Randall, and that was a mistake from Gatt.
Well, behind those two, we just caught a glimpse of the 2nd Roberts outfit, 75 Brian Pedder and Rob Stedman. Yeah, they've closed up on those two, so we could see a good scrap developing for that 3rd place.
Well, look at that, Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead. They've taken nearly a second off of Tim Reeves' lap record, 47.5. They've now reduced it to, but Tim and Tristan obviously not that far behind them either. This is the scrap for 3rd place.
And Pedder is there, sitting right on the back of Gatt.
And so's Andy Laidlow and Patrick Farrant.
So we've got a 4-way scrap now for that 3rd place. This is getting very interesting.
I must say, I'm very impressed with Laidlow and Farrant this weekend. They've come here, not been at Brands before. Andy said before the event he nearly didn't do this meeting because he'd never ridden at Brands before.
Whereas most of the other competitors, of course, have been on this circuit many, many times.
He's doing a great job hanging on there in, what's that, 6th position?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jürgen Steinhausen hasn't been here that many times in comparison to the man that's behind him, or the 2 men that are behind him at the moment.
No, and Gatt just looking for a way past Steinhausen again. He made that mistake a couple of laps ago.
Oh, has he got it? No.
It's a difficult place to try and do it there, and he's
Pedder
allowed
goes up the inside.
Oh, and a bit of a nudge.
Well, onto the grass and just a little bit of a wave back there from the passenger.
That's okay, says Randall, no worries. Now Steve Webster really pulling away at the front. He's opened up about a second advantage or more over Tim and Tristan Reeves, but they're getting into the back markers now. And back with this scrap for 8th position. It's still Norbury and Parnell, but now, well, now Morrissey has got a run on Steve Norbury, and I think that's going to be it.
Final lap then, Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead, the reigning World Sidecar champions. Well, they did their battling, and Paul Woodhead looks back and just acknowledges the back marker, allowing them to come through easily. Tim Reeves, I think, has decided, well, second's going to have to be good enough. We've got another race yet to come, so maybe Reevesy could reverse the role in race 3.
Yeah, through clearways for the final time. Well, Reeves's not giving up, is he? He's
No.
smoking that rear tyre. There'll be nothing left of that at the end of this race.
Here comes Webster. It's a checkered flag for Steve Webster. Second place then confirmed for that 77 outfit of Tim and Tristan Reeves. So the results look like this. Webster and Woodhead confirmed the winners from Reeves and Reeves. Steinhausen's held on to that 3rd place. Gatton Randall stayed in 4th from Laidlow and Ferrance. Pedder and Stedman, Philp and Long, Morrissey and Biggs there confirmed in 8th. And there are the winning 2 up onto the podium. Steve Webster, Paul Woodhead, along with the ever-smiling Jorg Steinhausen to their right. Pedro Ribeiro there, from the FIM, making the presentation, along with Mrs. Steinhausen. Steve Webster gets the laurels, and Ian's with the winners now.
Steve Webster, Paul Woodhead, winners of round 2. Another 25 points, maximum score so far. That looked like a much more difficult race.
Yeah, it's harder and harder because on a small track like this, it's very, very limited time to overtake and places to overtake. And we must have had about 3 or 4 comings together, you know, swapping paint. Probably how racing should. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
So the standings now look like this. Maximum points for Webster and Woodhead with Tim Reeves and Tristan in 2nd place. Steinhausen and Hopkins are in 3rd, Lalo and Ferrance, Morrissey and Biggs, Philpott Long and Richard Gatt, Paul Randall there in 7th. We're going to take another short break. We'll be back with the finale right after that. So welcome back here to Brands Hatch in England for this first round of the FIM World Sidecar. Ian's down on the line talking now to Jorg Steinhausen.
2 3rd places in the first 2 opening rounds. Do you think you can improve on that in this race?
It will be difficult against these weapons they have. I try my best to catch up, and in the long race I have perhaps preserve their tires more than in race 1. But I can only try, you know, to keep the disadvantage for the season here, you know, in tight borders. But yeah, we struggle.
Well, impressive ride so far for the 99 outfit of Dan Morrissey. There's Rob Biggs. Ian now with Steve Norbury.
Steve, first World Championship weekend for you. Going all right so far?
Yeah, it seems to be. We got through all the match races all right. I think we scored 5 points, I don't know. And the first big race this afternoon, we were 9th. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. Yeah.
Frantic last-minute preparations here by the 75 outfit of Brian Perida. The reason for that is earlier on in the day, in a national race, these two had the most dramatic crash you're ever likely to see in sidecar racing. Brian Perida trapped under the outfit, but fortunately both driver and the passenger confirmed to be okay and fit to race, but they just had to do a lot of very quick repair work. They got it onto the line with just a few seconds left to spare. Well, Ian's back with me once again here in the commentary tower, and they're on the line. Ian, who do you think's going to win this one?
Well, I've got to put my money on Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead. They've dominated the first 2 races, and now we're into this 30-lap gold race. This is the kind of territory Webster likes, the longer races, manage the tyres better, and hopefully wear down Tim and Tristan Reeves in the early stages.
Well, Tim and Tristan, of course, more familiar to the circuit here at Brands Hatch. There is that 75 outfit of Brian Perida and Rob Stedman. We're on board once again with Tim and Tristan Reeves, and Webster again back in 2nd place. Tim looks back to see where he is.
Yeah, Webster not renowned for his starts, but he's managed to get away with Tim and Tristan Reeves all the time this weekend. So obviously he's been working on those over the winter, knowing that he can't afford to let Tim and Tristan get away.
Well, it's Richard Gatt and Paul Randall there in third. There is the 36 outfit of Steve Norbury and Scott Parnell. So already the first two are beginning to pull a reasonable gap over the chasing pack. So I'm reason to believe that this race is all about Reeves and Webster once again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've dominated qualifying and the opening two races. They've just got the upper hand around this Indy circuit here at Brands Hatch.
Steinhausen there in fourth place, chasing down the Gatt. Oh, we've got somebody there spinning away. Is that Bill Philp that's took a bit of a sideways on there? He survived it and got away again.
Yeah, that was Bill Philp causing mayhem in the middle of the pack, but still Tim and Tristan Reeves holding off the attentions of Steve Webster at the moment. But how close do you want to be?
Well, they couldn't get much closer apart from parking on each other, I think. Here we go. Who is where? And Webster up the inside looking for the lead. Well, those outfits so evenly matched as far as speed is concerned, but Webbo drives it up the inside of Reeves and shuts the door. Reevesy comes back up him again as they come up to Druids. You can see Reevesy looking from one side to the other, and Webster just knows that he's ferrying away, looking for a gap. We're back on board with Dan Morrissey once again. And where are they? About, what, 7th or 8th, I think?
Oh, no, I think Dan's down about 12th position at the moment. Got a terrible start. Just wheel spun off the line, but he's up there. That's Bill Philp ahead of him. Bill's obviously dropped back down the order. He's had a spin. Steve Norbury and Scott Parnell just ahead of Bill Philp. So this is a real tightly matched group in the midfield, and some real close racing all the way through this 24-bike grid.
Well, it's basically a full lineup, which is nice to see with sidecar racing. We hope we keep a full lineup throughout the whole season. So we're off to Hungary for the next one, and then we disappear off to Germany for round 3 at the Nürburgring. So we've got a fair variation of tracks to race on this year.
And just look at this now. Bill Philp getting a run out of clearways on Steve Norbury. The passengers up over the back wheel to aid traction into the corner, and Bill Philp slips past Norbury and Paddock Hill Bend.
Bill was telling me earlier today. Oh, and Webster, what's Webster doing? He
Well,
looked
I think
up
he was
and
just
over
having
then.
a look around to check where Tim was, whether he'd broken the toe yet, but obviously not broken it quite far enough. Tero Manning and they're just having a spin at Druids, and oh, well, that looked a bit close. Did Steve Norbury clip the back of that machine? It looked very close. And no reverse gears on these sidecars, of course, so trying to spin it round and get it going.
And the last place you want to be is in the kitty litter on the left-hand side there.
For sure,
Because
yeah.
once you're in there, you're not coming out too easily.
Well, he's underway again, but, well, what's that? That is Steve Norbury and Scott Parnell, and, well, yeah, it looks like Scott's hurt his hand there, so I did think there was some contact, and they're pulling straight out of the race.
Oh, that could be quite nasty if his hand got caught down on the wheel rim of the sidecar. That's like having your hand chopped between a couple of flying knives, really, but let's hope that it's nothing more than just a few grazes.
And there's Dan Morrissey up the inside of Martin and Tony Van Giel, so they've moved up into 10th position now. And ahead of them is Gary and Dan Knight. Well, straight past them, so 2 positions in 1 corner.
Very late on the brakes.
Very late. Good riding there from Dan Morrissey, and we're on lap 10 with Richard Gatt and Paul Randall there in 3rd position. So they lost out on a podium last time around, and they're looking good for it this time.
Oh, well, that was Martin Van Giel slamming the brakes and missing the gear. And poor old Steve Norbury, I think, just went, no, it was Bill Phil. Parked his nose cone right up the tray. Let's have a look at it again from the other angle.
Yeah, it just looked like the machine of Van Giel's just faltered coming out the corner, and poor old Bill Philp, obviously on full throttle, had nowhere to go.
I think they called it a rear ender slightly, you know.
Yes. No argument on the lap 15. Steve Webster now still in the lead, but
Webster's got a problem, and he's heading back into the pits. Well, that's a surprise.
that's disaster for Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead. They don't normally have a mechanical problem. And that's left Tim and Tristan Reeves out in the lead.
Well, it's going to be a race apiece, but Webster won't score any points in this last race. So that would put the Reeves brothers in the lead of the championship, leaving here, going to round 2 at the Hungaroring.
Yeah, I mean, looking back from that onboard shot, that leaves Richard Gatt and Paul Randall in 2nd position.
Yeah.
That man, Jörg Steinhausen, 3rd. Number 75 just going through his shot was Brian Pedder. He's in 4th place on that battered machine.
Yeah, replacement fairing thrown on, and that to do a lot of quick repair work after that upside down in an earlier national race that they were taking part in.
Well, it's Tim Reeves threading his way through the tail enders. obviously such a short lap here at Brands Hatch, and over this 30-lap distance, the guys behind going to get a lap down by the end of this race, and that's Billy Galros and new passenger Johnny Briggs that they've just gone past, and I think Galros is in 10th position.
Back into Druids once again, the hard right-hander here at Brands in the UK, and they drop down to the bottom part of the circuit. Tim getting way out over the sidecar wheel to keep it balanced, and then head down again as they head up towards the long sweeping right-hander that brings them back onto the start and finish straight. We've been so lucky, I think, Ian, not to get any rain here today.
Yeah, for sure. And Richard Gatt and Paul Randall in securing that second position now. They've opened up a big gap over Jörg Steinhausen and Trevor Hopkinson. Steinhausen must be having some problems because he's now coming under pressure from Brian Pedder and Rod Stegman.
There's Morrissey, final lap. So Dan Morrissey, well, I don't think he's had too bad a ride here today.
This is Tim Reeves just coming up to pass Dan Morrissey, and that's Pekka Pivarinta.
And
flames
Morrissey
out the side of that LCR Suzuki. Well, Dan Morrissey just been put a lap down by Tim Reeves, but as I say, 30 laps around this circuit, you don't have to be too much slower to end up a lap behind.
So they're on the way round now on the final lap, be the checkered flag and another set of maximum, well, the first set of maximum points for Tim and Tristan Reeves. Steve Webster in the pits with some sort of problem. They're not sure what it is, but they pulled out after the engine was heard to be making lots of nasty little noises. Here we go then, checkered flag for Reevesy. He's got to be chuffed with that result. So the official results will look like this. Tim and Tristan Reeves taking the win, the 25 points. Gatt and Randall in second, Steinhausen and Hopkins in third. Pedder and Stedman up into fourth place, a brilliant ride. But we caught up with Steve Webster and I asked him what had been the problem during the race.
We're not sure yet. I think something maybe come loose with the electrical problem or something, I don't know. Something in the engine, electrical wise, has stopped, so engine just slowed and that's it. Such is life.
Tim and Tristan Reeves then, their first ever World Championship podium #1 step. They have to be pleased with that for sure. But on the second step, it was Richard Gatt and Paul Randall.
Richard Gatt, Paul Randall, local heroes really, and first time on the World Championship rostrum, second position. I mean, how did you manage that?
Hard work. We just cracked down and got on with it really. We was worried about the distance and whether we could stick with Steve and Tim. Obviously, there's still a gap there to close on Tim and Steve. They obviously got about a second quicker than us. We need to find that. But no, we knew we'd be racing with Steinhausen. And once he passed us, the plan was to get straight back past him. We spent the whole race getting in, locked in a battle and following him for the whole race. So we went straight back and consistent laps and just second every lap, I think. And once we broke it, 9-10 seconds, I think we was there. So it would just keep going then, stay on the track.
Tim, Trish, first World Championship victory. I mean, describe how you're feeling at the moment.
I can't put it in words. Obviously, all we've ever wanted to do was to win a World Championship race, and to win it at home at Brands Hatch, absolutely spot on. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a result with Steve breaking down, but we've got to be in it to win it, and fantastic.
And Tristan, 30 laps of the short circuit. I mean, I was getting dizzy just watching it. How were you feeling?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I don't want to sound, but it was all right. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't know if it's because we was on our own and but he still kept making mistakes, overshooting corners. It's still making it a bit hard, but it's like Tim said, our local track, with everyone here, a family, everyone. It's just a shame Dave, for certain reasons, can't be here, and it's a shame, I wish him well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd all like to wish Dave well, but you've given him the victory that he so wanted. And have you got a message for Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for all this backing, mate, and it's just hurry up and get better and get with us, eh? We're missing you.
Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing Dave Roberts at round 2 in Hungary. Well, those are the standings. It's Tim Reeves and Tristan Reeves who lead the World Championship from Steve Webster and Paul Woodhead. Steinhausen Hopkins there in third from Laidlow and Ferrance in fourth. Well, that's it from round 1. We hope to see you in Hungary for more sidecar racing.